Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here. Once was inmendham, mostly. Um, no, I thought I'd have a theme for the week, but it just didn't happen that way. So you get what you get in terms of timing. Just little things the brain does. So I saw some reference to the Civil War last night. And so it just popped into my head, because I was thinking the word imposition, and so that was sort of going to be the story for the day, and how, I thought of different ways of explaining or getting to it, focusing people's attention on how, in a sense, ludicrous what they're doing is, in terms of their behavior being something obnoxious and rude. This whole idea that they think they can manage it, they can control their little experiment, and that they'd even want to do the experiment if they actually had to pay the price. So I was thinking of like a Las Vegas gambling, a slot machine. And instead of being just winning or losing money, okay, the slot machine, every time you pull the lever, you could get an absolute disaster, and the slot machine puts a nail in your eye. I wonder, whether people would play. Yes, the slot machine might give you $1 million, or the slot machine might stick a nail in your eye. I wonder if people would be also interested in gambling anymore. When all degrees of, this kind of blight. It pokes you with a needle, and gives you AIDS. It does all kinds of, potentially nasty things, and potentially good things. Trophy wife or something pops out. So potential goods, but lots of potential bads also. And I just wonder whether people would be gambling if the negative was something real. And if they actually had to live with the mess they make, in terms of had to experience the life they impose, and the endure the risk of it all. You see things that are just so, there's some, all the youth here are trending, so there's some sort of a little electric bicycle, it's got like 10-inch wheels on it. And, so they're all got this electric bicycle now. It's the new thing. And it's all this no hands, on their cell phone. They're texting without their hands on the steering device. And, as a kid, yeah, you do that kind of shit. But you'd almost say that, wow, we're too smart to do that all over again. And nobody's wearing a helmet, of course. And you're just saying this is, it's inevitable disaster will result. I mean, it's just unavoidable that there will be catastrophic brain injury. It's just I don't see how it's going to be evaded. And who wants to live that? Who wants to live that life? And that's all part of this imposition. Nobody can manage this thing anymore, having a kid anyway. I mean, you can't control the experiment at all. The environment's going to control. And even for you to control, you have to control so many of your bad habits, in terms of being a bad influence. I'd have to stop swearing. Of course, you can't smoke, and you can't drink, and you can't, you can't do anything to encourage any kind of risky behavior. So you have to really clean up your act if you're going to be a responsible parent, not a hypocrite. And forget it. So I mean, a little tiny bit of thought, and it just becomes untenable. This idea that yes, I'm competent to do this thing. To create something that's going to be able to get through the experience, without stepping in all of the really sticky, nasty crap there is to step into. The mistakes are so easy to make. Look, no hands. Yeah, no. well, and then there's people that are just so, I mean, frankly, I mean, Idiocracy is winning because everybody looks retarded. I mean, they can't even ride bicycles, frankly. I mean, the right, I mean, people are wobbling all over the place, and you're just, oh, this isn't going to work. Anyway, there's so many things I could just gripe about as social events, but what's the point? There's only two kinds of people: haters and lovers. There's nobody sitting in the middle going, "Oh, let's be rational. Yeah, let's try that for a change." So you can't really bring up any subjects without just triggering lefty and righty overreactions. Civil War. Okay, back to that. So we had a civil war over, what is a pretty substantial, egregious thing, this idea of enslaving people. But compared to what? The same thing you could argue about the Nazis in a concentration camp. Okay, let's say there were 6 million Jews. Let's say they killed the 6 million, not even 4. Let's just go to 6. And in the most brutal way possible. Compared to, right? So I could make an argument and say, well, some of our basic habits already do that, right? I mean, we kill, if you add them up over a number of years, the number of people killed by different things, even viruses, and, kind of irresponsible, filthy habits that allow such diseases to spread in the first place and all that kind of crap. Things that could be mitigated against, that we don't make any effort to prevent, essentially, no effort. But then I would just make the argument about the animals themselves, just the cruelty of the fact of eating meat and the industry as that's created. You could say, you could have a war over that. I mean, if you're going to take it as two sides and say, well, there's a side here that has a belief. Now, you could even compare the beliefs. I mean, is the bigotry displayed in the two war scenarios? Somehow blacks are intrinsically inferior and therefore should be slaves. And the Nazis doing essentially this, it's a very similar thing in the sense that they had the myopic view of Africans. One based on some circumstance. It's just a circumstance. It's like going to Polynesia and just saying, oh, they're just happy people. Happy, silly people. Or, something. It's stupid. It just has to do with how their culture. And the fact is that everybody can be risen above a particular culture. They can be culturally nurtured, or they can be culturally starved, and that's the only fact. So I would argue that both the Confederacy, and the Nazis were both idiots in the sense that, come on, you're not even trying to do this right. I mean, you're not even trying to be fair, to the facts. But anyway, make your argument from some other point of view, like you just don't like diversity. Make it from some perspective, that has some facts in it, not this idea that Jews are, have horns and are, plotting to destroy you. It's just too stupid. But anyway, so you can just say, well, what's dumber? Okay, this idiotic notion that somehow animals don't have a welfare stake and don't feel anything, or this dopey bigotry based on, well, I've seen Jews, rubbing pennies. Which one is more idiotic? And I would just say that you could argue that obviously it's pretty idiotic to try to sit there and just diminish or dismiss animals as being sentient, especially when people are, like Hitler, petting their dog, feeding him treats, having a relationship that is based on a full understanding that the dog is a conscious being with a significant ability to be pleased or displeased and comfortable or uncomfortable. Hitler knew full well that he wouldn't want to step on the dog's paw or do something to cause the dog inconvenience and unpleasantness. And yet, the rest of the, in the real world, his hate made it impossible for him to see, that he's a malicious paw stepper on her. And so, but I mean, just saying it's sort of ironic, right, that this little issue, frankly, I mean, by comparison, compared to the concentration camps of the, eating meat industry, the little Chinese kittens in cages, that they're going to boil alive. Compared to that, sorry, I mean, I don't want to diminish people's, tragedies, but I'm just saying, I'd argue that the scale just doesn't compare. I'm sorry, it just doesn't compare in terms of conscious experiences and some sort of actual horror. I mean, real. I mean, the whole idea of, Jewish tradition of bleeding things to death, do it the slowest way possible, because you have some notion of cleanliness, based on 3,000-year-old science or 4,000. Come on, grow up. Too silly. And yet we let that shit go on, and, there's not even much civil discourse over it. There's no, there's very little noise being made. Yet there's this, in my opinion, a pretty, horrendous difference between the civilized human and the Nazi. Well, the civilized human and the meat eater. There's even better reason. It's the difference between, I guess, Superman and Batman. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a clear winner. Okay, flying and being bulletproof is a clear win. Besides, Man of Steel whole thing, I mean, being able to lift tall buildings, and all that kind of crap. I mean, it's not even a contest. So to me, it's not even a contest. That the better reason to have a civil war or a World War II would be something like veganism. Be so much more legitimate than those other two silly wars, right? And but you could argue for its illegitimacy in the sense that this shouldn't even be an argument. Civilized people shouldn't even have an argument about something as silly as we should do everything possible to stop it, prevent it, do less of it. Anything that could reduce, the number of concentration camps, and how many screams are coming out of them, they should be for. The idea that you do your best not to raise your kids with a meat dependency, that should be like a basic rule right away, is that you don't give your own kids your bad habits. And all it is a bad habit. I mean, that's the science all over the place. Nobody needs to be a meat eater. That's just horse shit. And statistically proven to be, you're going to live longer, so one can assume there are health benefits to the fact that you're living longer. That means you're probably healthier, less obesity, less all the other stuff, blah blah blah. So this shouldn't, in some ways. So then you go the step further, and when you're an ethicist, a real civilized person, when you finally say, let's take civilization as far as we can take it, let's take being risk averse and cautious and careful, and making sure it's all flowers and no weeds, doing it right, doing intelligence right, making the eyeball as clear as we can make it, make the image of reality as clear and as honest as you can see it. Well, then the tragedy is, yes, okay, it's not another human committing the crime. It's a force, just a mechanism, a piece of the universe. And we can understand it's just a stupid fluke of the function. It's just one of the patterns that can be created, is evolution and, the creating a piece of chemistry that makes copies of itself. And that can lead to, doesn't necessarily lead to a problem, because usually it just makes pieces of chemistry that, look alike. Who cares? But obviously in our case, there were triggers and events that led to the creation of a brain, and, this reward and punishment struggle that takes place inside of that brain. And that's where all the danger is, all the opportunity for mayhem is created. So nature is, a million times worse, than. So if you're going to make comparisons by numbers or some sort of thing, I don't know how you even make these, it's so hard to do. Because the numbers are, just so massive in terms of, I could just argue about the feral pets that are, left abandoned and by us, and that in itself is a holocaust in population. It's a huge number, millions upon millions of, animals that live poorly and die badly. And this is a real evil by any kind of rational standard. It's not a good thing. It's a very bad thing. And, we shouldn't be on the dance floor having a good time, when this tragedy is taking place. I mean, it's not any different than if there was a bunch of, you're at the dancing institution, whatever. I'm trying to think of, what do you call those restaurants that do that kind of, well, anyway, you're at the nightclub, and right outside the door is a bunch of, there's 5 or 6 little 13-year-old girls trapped under gas trucks, almost ready to burn to death. I mean, really, you're just going to sit there and smoke your cigars and have a good time and who cares? Not my problem. I'm saying if that's your attitude, then you have a problem, You're really broken if you don't get it, that it really is just a bit of luck to be, you're lucky enough to have somebody to rescue you, so to speak. You don't get through your life without luck and good fortune. You don't even get through it where, you can have a conversation, and you know that you're lucky, all right, if you can even have the time to be educated and the opportunity to have appreciation for something and all of that crap, even to enjoy a cigar. This is a lot who don't even get that opportunity. Anyway, so you got to know you have to invest in giving back the same good fortune where you can, and give those 13-year-old girls the good fortune, of somebody in the nightclub being sophisticated enough to know, I might be able to stop this. I might be able to fix this. I should do something. I shouldn't just, pretend everything's okay. I'll just pretend it doesn't happen. It's not happening. Just play the music louder so I don't hear the screams, and and that's all people really are doing, is they're finding excuses to just be solipsistic, a word I really didn't need to know. I mean, I didn't know before the internet. I didn't waste time with all these category words. But obviously you just have this idea of somebody who's selfish and thinks the universe runs for their benefit, and that's the only game being played. none of the other players are real except for the star. We'll just follow him wherever he is on the field. All the other players, they don't mean anything. It's just so bad how people function in their lives and such. So that's what occurred to me as a subject anyway. So the people who are, appalled that I would suggest that, in the end, this might have to come down to that, a civil war, or there might have to be a battle over the, winner and loser, because there is no compromise. There's no, we can both be happy. Okay, just like there was no compromise with the Nazis or compromise with the Confederacy. There was no compromise. There was no way to say, well, I suppose there was a way to say it. Like, maybe, maybe we can get them to agree that in 100 years, okay, they have to give up slavery completely. And they just have to, over the next 100 years, winnow it out. But they don't seem like they were agreeable to anything. There was... this is their sacred, monetizable gold, and they're not going to give it up. This is their golden goose, and they don't care how many people they had to feed the goose to make them the gold, or however you want to analogize it. How many, how expensive their economy was, or whatever, their way of life. There's no evidence that the people who are arguing against are any more willing to compromise in any sense, or understand that, frankly, I'm not raping, you're raping. Okay, I can't stop the rape without imposing on the rapist. Okay, it's just a fact. There's no other way to stop it, and to prevent it. I can't even hide, I can't even put security guards around. I can't do anything, to protect against the crime you're committing, because it's so invasive and so, there's just no way for me to create any, I can't counter it. I can't undo it. Like I said, I can't prevent it by just staying in my house. Locking my daughters in their room so they don't get raped. I can't stop it that way because you're so aggressive. Okay, and the act itself is what it is. This imposing thing and creating life and regenerating and feeding it. So there's either you stop it or you don't. I wish there was a compromise. I'd vote for a compromise. But what's the compromise going to be? You win and I lose? Your values are intact, and my values are completely left to suffer, to be ignored. There's no compromise. So in the end, people will have to either become one or the other. There have to be, you have to believe that the intelligent conclusion, let's just say that intelligence will survive this period of idiocracy, and that the fact is that the truth about existence and the evolution and all this crap is going to become more and more of a truth, more and more solid, and it's going to become more and more evil even to raise children in religious notions and nonsense. Your storytelling and fables about why you're doing things, why you have kids, is because you have an ego problem. That's the real reason. You want a distraction. You want something out of them. You want something out of the experience, because there is no rational reason to think you're rescuing some non-existent person from some horrible purgatory and bringing them to this, wonderful freedom. Because that's not what you're doing, and nobody could make those kind of arguments in any kind of rational context. Even now, it's just, oh, please, we're going to have this silly a conversation. You're not saving a soul. You're just putting a consciousness at risk. And, You're sentencing it to experiences that you haven't even tasted yet. You're going to force it to eat something, and you haven't tested it yet, like death. You think it's not a big deal. Okay, yeah, dying will be shit. That'll be one of the easiest things I did. You have some notion in your head that this isn't a big deal, that you don't have to actually experience it to know what it is. Yeah, you already got it all figured out, and you've already accounted for it. Bullshit. So do it first, and then show us how, oh yes, it was a great decision to have kids. Because I don't think it works that way. I don't think if we could actually, put some electrodes into the dead, okay, and give them back their give them back their intellectual competence even, and understanding all of what their life was and how they ended up and how they're just a gravestone somewhere with mold on it, that maybe they'd say something like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have had kids, or something like that. That it really wasn't for any good cause, because this isn't all that great a story. I thought I was fighting dragons, and I was just fighting delusions. I thought I was on some heroic quest, and the Holy Grail is just plastic. It's not. It's really not what you think it is. The big finish is gonna, it's gonna be a whimper. It's not gonna be some celebration of well done. It just ain't gonna be that. It's going to be just the definition of a lot of waste. A lot of wasted bad experiences. A lot of things that should never have happened. A lot of mistakes, miscalculations, blah, blah, blah. Right turn, left turn, wrong turn. It's going to be a lot of regret, and I should have done better. I could have done better. I could have been a contender. There's just going to be a lot of bad stories of failure. Most people fail. It's just the truth. And in hindsight, they're going to say, "Gee, I did all of that work for nothing. I learned how to play the game, and I didn't realize it wasn't a good game to play." So I think I'll take a little pause, and we'll see if I have some connected thought, that inspires me to say more on the simple subject of imposition be bad, okay. Risk. Again, tying somebody to the slot machine. That's what you're doing when you're having kids, is you're just putting them in their child-safe seat. You're strapping them in to a machine you wouldn't play. The let's play the risk is fun game. No, it isn't, and the outcomes aren't fun. And they're, again, how many kids have to go, do the head first into the asphalt before you say it's not worth it? I mean, how much would you pay? How many lives would you live paralyzed and retarded, for the glories of football? I wouldn't. I wouldn't have my fingernail, a blood blister under my fingernail for football. I mean, I wouldn't endure much. I wouldn't endure anything, frankly, right? Because yes, it's just an addictive soap opera. What's my hero going to do today? Will the doctor find love? I mean, it's just like some little old lady watching her stories. You're just addicted to a silly little narrative. You're just, it's Mary had a little lamb, and will a spider, bite her on the tuffet, and, all kinds of horrible things happen. Or will she successfully swing and go la 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 and pet the kitty. Yeah. It's just as silly. Ugh. It should all be quite embarrassed, frankly. Just embarrassing. You know, what vicariously you people, mentally wank to. I mean, it's, I mean, if people could see what's in your head, you do know you'd be really embarrassed, right? So why are you imposing that? Why, you're all living fake lives. You're all, doing the beard thing or whatever. You're all, I'm in the wrong body. I'm in the wrong, you're all doing it. And you're just pretending, because you don't have the courage to out yourself, But you're all living your life is such a pile of shit compared to where you really want to be. And you know it. Why are you pretending it's all working out just so well? Oh, come on, you fraud. Oh, just amazing. And you want to impose the fake life on something else. You don't want to do that. No, there's some other reason. Okay, so anyone defending child production is just defending people, being phony and fake, because it's all bullshit. They're looking at it as something to, they can't paint, so they're going to create a painter. That kind of bullshit that they're going to, it's just something to feed off of, as if it's even an accomplishment. I mean, you see the people who think it's actually an accomplishment. Look, I was able to perform the biological function of having a baby, therefore I'm a somebody because I did this minimal biological function. I mean, it's that bad, really, for some people. They take pride in it. Like, jobs, we were able to accomplish it. What a hero I am. And then some of that goes to just even having, being enough of a person to at least be able to pay for your mortgage and, and take care of kids. Like, they're proud of the fact that, oh, look, I'm so accomplished, I can afford to have children. There's people like that. But it's all bad reasoning. And, it can't make any sense to anybody who just thinks about it a little bit. And you have to be kind of a very, very selfish and sadistic even person to want the job, because the whole thing is insanely scary. I mean, I've never been comfortable. I mean, I can't see how people are so comfortable. I mean, you see kids doing stuff, and the mothers are all talking to each other, and their kids are running around, and some of them are just, 5 years old, and, 3 years old even, and they're running down the sidewalk or something, and you're just like, oh, shit. I mean, how can people be comfortable knowing that, there's a 50-50 chance kind of thing? You know that out of 10 tries, there's going to be, the one try that's not going to work out well. And you really don't know how bad it's going to be. I mean, it's going to knock some teeth out. Is it going to put a dent in its skull? What's going to be the permanent damage? And to not be constantly harassed by that, how do I mitigate against it? How do I prevent the incidental brain damage, the other things that can go wrong? I just don't know how anybody even contemplates the idea of managing a conscious life and developing a human being, and being pretty much the primary person responsible for who we'll be, and recognizing that everything you say and every way you say it, can create a psycho killer or, some other kind of idiot. I mean, either kind of person you create, right? One who's a do-gooder, because the do-gooders get into all kinds of trouble too, or a bad doer. There's so, how do you even, you can't even, there's not even some deliberate way to manage the creation. There's no Dr. Spock book that has any good advice in it, really. How to manage a human being, how to create one, how to cause enough you need to be humble, and you need to appreciate, and you need to do, not to be impulsive. Don't jump, never jump. Always deliberately walk, careful steps. I mean, how do you do all that without making the kid psychotic anyway? It's so hard to construct the perfect little scenario of events, that don't ruin what you're trying to accomplish. Just as hard to train for the Olympics, let's say, for some event without making a mistake that, tears a tendon and now you're done. You'll never be the best in the world, because you made a mistake. How do you prevent the mistakes that are going to, instead of make it possible for your kid to be president of the United States, which isn't even a good thing anymore, because to be president you'd have to be a lying, conniving, deceiving sack of shit to get elected. So even that's not even a positive thing anymore. To aspire to as an accomplishment. So all of this, but there are people that's trivial, right? They raise their daughters to be in beauty pageants or something because, they think that's, I want her to be Farrah Fawcett. That's their ambition for their kid. That's the idiocracy part. There's people way too stupid, popping kids out. And that's the real problem, is this is behavior for the dumb. And here I am trying to reason with people. And the people you can reason with aren't the real problem. It's the people you have a real hard time reasoning with who are the problem. And that's why you end up having to have a war, right? Right. All right. So I'll be back. Yeah. All right, back. So in talking about it, I'm just, I don't, again, ever advocate violence as a first choice to solve any problem. It's sort of a last resort thing, blah, 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 blah. I'm just arguing for pragmatically how is ultimately resolution going to take place. And clearly, in the future, our democracy itself could be the battlefield. And it could even, instead of actually droning each other or maliciously attempting to blow up each other's buildings, Republicans against Democrats or something, that the battle will be in just some sort of democratic process or some sort of gang process, where the Godfather, whoever, the mob, the controller of the mob, will make the decision about who's a winner and who's a loser, because that's just a consequence of the concentration of power. So I would argue to people, do you really think in the future they're going to be able to erase this conversation about ultimately the meaning of our existence, the function of it, the whole idea that we're just trapped inside of a fabulistic narrative, in terms of living our own deluded little lives about our own little self-importance and all of that crap, and all of those psychology truths will be able to be hidden from children, and anybody who asks questions will be able to be given these silly, because God says so, answers and be satisfied. That the future is not going to be even more aggressive in dissecting motivations and pointing out how this is the whole sheeple scenario, the whole idea of gang psychology, that the truth is a tradition. The truth isn't an ideal. It's just built into some sort of, these are my habits, and if you don't have my habits, fuck you. You're the enemy. But I don't want to imply that it's all arbitrary, because it's, habits aren't just arbitrary. Habits are like, keeping your hands on the handlebars. Habits are about things that are realistically going to affect other people, like being on your cell phone. It's not about the fact that, while you're driving, It's not that you're risking your own welfare. It's that you're just gratuitously saying, I don't give a fuck about anybody else's. That's the real crime, okay, is your imposition. And the fact that you don't even realize, you're not playing a game. The game isn't your game. The game is everybody else, and the game is also in the game. And what happens to them matters just as much as it matters what happens to you. And if your brain doesn't understand that all you're really here to do when you're preventing harm is to prevent any harm. Preventing your own harm, yeah, that's special just for you. Okay, that makes it more fun. But it doesn't make it more real. It's not more real of a good, preventing your harm or preventing somebody else's harm. There's just no difference. Preventing your broken leg isn't any better than preventing somebody else's broken leg. And you think the future 1,000 years from now, people won't know that? They'll still live in a world where nobody even said that to them? Where, it won't be part of the human conversation, something so obvious. See, they always put it in different words, do unto others as you'd have others do unto you, and all that kind of crap. But it really just comes down to the fact that if you're going to define a good, okay, you have to be able to understand that, it doesn't make any difference. Broken leg me, broken leg somebody else. Why should my brain think my broken leg is more important? And as soon as you ask why, you find out, because I'm a selfish cunt. Yeah, that's the reason. It's not a good reason. Because I'm a bigot. I think I'm more important. I actually think it. My brain actually fuels that idea. But it's not reasonable. It's not rational. It doesn't make any sense. It can't be made into sense. It can't be made true in any way. There's only arguments against it. There's not any arguments for it. The idea that I'm special and I'm more important doesn't work. It just doesn't have any. There's there's nothing backing it. Kind of like m1/2 mv squared. Kind of like a lot of physics theories. There's really nothing backing it. No evidence, no anything. It's just a silly little story they tell. So anyway, just throwing that in. The trolls, the morons. So stupid. So anyway, so that's probably enough, right? That's a good theme to end on, is just understanding that, if you have any, intelligence, that is, you have acquired some information from the world, this has to be one of the pieces of information you should have acquired by now, is there's no sense to selfish. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it just doesn't. You can't win by creating losers. That doesn't work. It's too expensive. It's like when they're trying to make, so this sort of relates to the vegan subject, right? They're trying to make synthetic meat. And some people think, well, that'll be the cure to the problem. But the problem is you have to process it. You can't just throw like 4 chemicals into I just throw some rocks and I throw some grass and I throw, you can't do it some simple way and just stir it and there it is, it's meat. It's always going to take processing, and processing is time and money. You know what I mean? It has its own value, and that's what makes it more expensive. You can't just stick the seed in the dirt, okay, and grow meat. So, now maybe that's something they could do, though. Maybe they'll figure out how to make. See, it's still not going to work because you can't get enough solar energy to do all of the processing that it would require. So it's still, and probably you need an awful lot of fertilizer, so it'd still probably be too expensive a plant to grow. But yeah, that's one way of getting around it, I suppose, is to find some way to let nature do it, because nature does a lot of these things, better than we can. Our technology hasn't had, millions of years of trial and error to figure out how to do it the efficient way. we're not as well practiced as nature. That was sort of a side subject. The real point was humans are full of shit. Yeah, it just should be one of the things you know is that your psychology is just, it's crap. And you have to be skeptical of every single time you have an impulse. You have to have some sense that, it's probably bullshit. Okay, it probably isn't at all going to be efficient. It's going to be something I'm going to have to I'm going to have to cut selfish corners, and risk corners with somebody else's welfare. And that's the truth. And so, to have what you want, you're going to have to take it out of other people's welfare. And so that right away should tell you this isn't a game you want to play. I mean, you wouldn't say, yeah, let's do this on Mars. Let's do this someplace else. Let's force more beings into the dilemma where they have to make these where they have this trap of their desire and the huge liability that attempting to satisfy the desire involves. I mean, you walk the desert, you find the oasis, and there's going to be some other guy who's just, he's going to show up tomorrow. And the water only, takes a week to refill, and you're going to drink the glass of water. And he's going to show up tomorrow and he's going to be out of luck. That kind of shit is all over life, living. This inability to anticipate who you just screwed over. What you just, I mean, it's as simple as the idea of the banana, just throw the peel behind you. You just don't know that there's going to be somebody who's going to slip on it. And it's all of that crap is, which makes the game too stupid for a smart thing to play. Nothing smart says, let me play a game I can't control, and I'm going to not be able to see all of the harm I'm causing. It's all going to be invisible. Not all of it, but, my good intentions are often going to produce bad results. You give somebody a present and, they poke their eye out with it. That kind of crap. There's just, way too little control. Alright, so that's probably enough. No. I'll decide it's enough. And so I did intend to make some videos on political subjects and economics but yes, it's hard to have enthusiasm because there's people just too triggery, and they're really stupid. Frankly, I mean, people are so stupid. You're saying they can't. I just made this video, and somebody else will say I said all kinds of wacky shit in it that I never said. That's the, and we read the comments on people's videos, and they're just so freaking insanely out, and you're saying, okay, maybe it's just YouTube, and the only part of YouTube I'm watching is the part that's kind of fringe, so maybe it's just a bunch of, they're all psychotics, and that's why all the comments are, I don't know, so incredibly under-referenced. I mean, just all these claims about reality, it's almost like the chemtrails and all that. I mean, it's just so full of conspiracy theory, urban legend, just, so little facts to base their belief system. It's spooky. Because I would assume that the audience for most of the videos I watch would be sort of literate and intelligent, frankly. I mean, I'm not watching, squirrel chasing a nut video. I'm not watching the junk on YouTube. So you would expect the audience to be, of a higher caliber and not vulnerable to, essentially voodoo philosophy. But facts are the facts. So anyway, now it's enough. I believe so. All right. So anyway, thank you for your attention. It's a tough battle, this whole how do you fight idiocracy. That's another video I want to do just on this whole, I mean, it's another subject I want to, bang into a little, is the whole idea of people who are kind of aggressive, the street philosophy kind of approach. And there's a couple of people doing that on YouTube. And I'm not really a big fan, I never thought the whole public square thing made much sense, with the whole idea of bullhorns, and people just get bigger and bigger bullhorns so they can yell their message, and their message has to be simpler and simpler because people really aren't interested in listening to the explanation, the details, so it has to have a logo and you have to have a song. It's like you're selling Dr. Pepper, and it's really not about the ingredients or how much we pay our employees, or that we use better stuff, and none of that stuff will be part of the conversation. You just dance and say, you want to be a pepper, don't you? Come on, don't be one of those, don't be one of them. The argument's just stupid. So it's kind of like I'm for direct democracy, in the sense that we the people should vote on policy, because the representatives are broken down. I mean, that whole process is pretty shitty. They're all kind of just liars and crooks and thieves. But the problem is you still need somebody to actually go to the trouble to write the policy in a way that has practical hope of being implementable. So, I mean, that's what goes wrong in California, is that, they allow this referendum crap, but the referendums are written so poorly that they're non-functional. They create all kinds of problems that nobody worked out and figured out how to deal with. So in that sense, it doesn't work, because the direct democracy solution is kill the Mexicans, or love the Mexicans, but it's not going to be something rational, where have some expectation of they either melt in the pot or they have to get out of the pot. I mean, you have some obligation to melt, and if you're not going to do that, if you're not a melting metal, you just can't be in our pot, because this pot sort of depends on it not having chunks. We have to have a continuity. We have to speak a common language, and we have to do different things to have a civilization. And if you just aren't going to comply, then we can't love you. In my opinion, that would be the rational referendum versus kill them or love them. Is appreciate that people should, we're all for people reaching their highest potential, and if we can help get you a better education or help get you something, make you a better human being, all the better. But if all you want to do is get a car and bounce it up and down on the street, fuck you, go somewhere else. I mean, really, too stupid. I mean, the cliches are just all over the place. And you're just saying people are actually doing cliches right in front of me, right? They go right down the street saying, I am a gigantic cliche. And they're almost like proud of being a cliche. And you're just like, what the hell? You don't want to be profiled, and then you're doing exactly, what, hey, that's exactly what the profile says, isn't it? You're doing exactly what the book of profile says. You're being exactly what I'm supposed to not believe is the truth, but you're showing me it's the truth. And what the fuck? And you're proud of it. Politics has to have that shit in it, because you really can't, you can't really defend either party. You can't, they're just not even on the subject. This real subject is somewhere, not where they're any, just go where neither party is, and that's where the real subject is. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. So anyway, I'll be back in some new future video, probably. I probably will. Like I said, I can't guarantee anything. It just sucks that I really can't do that, Because who knows? We're all just, we could be this close to disaster. I'm just right this fucking close. Almost there. I don't even know it. Ooh, I wouldn't even impose that on something. I wouldn't make a machine that's got, oh shit. Is somebody going to, where's my source of electricity? Is somebody going to unplug me? Is somebody going to unplug me? Is somebody going to unplug me? Why would I make a machine that has to worry about that kind of shit? Yeah. It's just not right. I wouldn't do it. Because I'm a decent, nice, thoughtful brain who really doesn't want any trouble. Wants everything to go well. I'll water the plants, I'll do that. I understand. You have to maintain things, you have to, yes. That's the right way to do things the right way. Let's try not to do them the wrong way, including thinking. All right, anyway. Now it's enough, maybe. There's always some right time to end, but I can't even know that. It might be one more minute. One more minute might have triggered you, and you would have gone, oh, I totally get it, what he's talking about. Yeah, we should first talk about it and argue and do the best we can to make people understand. But if they're not going to understand, then fuck them. Yeah, there's a point where you're just going to say it's me or it's you. So you either kill me or I'm going to kill you. But we can't live together because you're doing shit that's just disgusting. Really disgusting. All right, anyway. See, but now I threw that bit in and it might have done damage because now somebody's, oh, he's so violent and evil. Oh, he's such a monster. He wants to kill people. He wants to eat their eyeballs and suck their blood and take a bath in it. Oh, oh. So, when the right time to end, who knows? Just totally uncertain. Okay, so I'm going to pick now. I think I've done my job. That's all I can do is try to reason with you. These are thoughts and ideas. Connect them together and figure out, yes, just concede your ambitions, your desires, your everything isn't worth somebody else's suffering. Please, come on, understand. It's not that hard to understand. If you had to live all the lives you're defending, come on, get serious. You wouldn't want to live them. All the tragedies, the horrors, the years of surgeries and this and that and all this shit going on. Come on, you wouldn't pay that price for... Oh, I hope I get laid again. You really wouldn't. For that little hope thing you have, the little hope that you're gonna... I'm gonna score a 58 on, the... whatever it is, Bango Django site. Yeah, I got a 52 once, but I'm going to get a 56. So I have to live longer so I can get a 56. That's the high score of my favorite internet personality. Incomprehensible name dot silly troll number / hashtag poo man. Yeah, that's the highest score he got. The internet is such a shithole. God, I just hate this planet. That's where I should end, yes. Oh, I just hate this stupid fucking moronic planet. Ugh. So anyway, till the next time and such.